My name is Sergeant Jason Highsmith. I've got 20 years on the division. I've been a sergeant for 5 years. The reason I took this role, there's several of us in the state that took this on with DAS because of our background in teaching and so forth. And I'm a firearms instructor, and I've taught police officers directed threat for the past 4 years. So this is our first time going over to the civilian sector in teaching the run, hide, fight theory, the active aggressor training that you guys are all getting. I do a lot of these. I'm very passionate about this because I feel this is one of the most important things you can have these days in any environment you're in, with situational awareness and just being out. You don't know when something bad is going to happen. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with that. And once again, if there's any questions, guys, just throw them at me as I'm speaking so I can answer those questions, okay? Profile of an active aggressor. An active aggressor is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area, typically through the use of firearms or improvised weapons. You guys know what improvised weapons are. We see it now with vehicles, okay? You see it with pipe bombs, vehicles, people carrying backpacks, okay? Whatever they can do to kill as many people or injure as many people as possible, they will do that, all right? So keep that in mind. It doesn't always necessarily mean a firearm. We see a lot of it with knife attacks, okay? Not so much over here, but in the UK, we're seeing it on a tremendous rate because there's a lower amount of firearms. There's a limited amount of firearms over there. So they're obviously doing whatever they can in order to harm and kill as many people as possible. What to do first? What do first responders, administrators, employees need to be thinking? The biggest thing I want you guys to get out of this as I'm teaching this is I want to stimulate your mind a little bit. All right, kind of put yourself in that mindset like, hey, if this happens, what do I do? And if we accomplish this today and you're actually thinking about this, whether you're here at work or you're out at the mall or wherever you're at, having that situational awareness and knowing what to do, and obviously knowing the run, hide, fight theory, okay, it's going to be a tremendous asset if this happens, okay? What are we doing now? Okay, what are we doing now to prevent this or in case this happens? How do we successfully mitigate the situation? What is my role? What is your role as a building administrator, as an employee? What can we learn from the past to prepare for the future? The biggest thing that the law enforcement community learned about active aggressors, active shooters, was what event happened in the early 90s that changed our whole view of active aggressors. You guys remember? Columbine. Okay. And the reason that happened, we waited over an hour to get into that school, okay, as a police officer. There was two active shooters because we didn't do this training. Nothing against the police officers, but it was relatively new to us. Okay, as police officers now, we immediately go in, whether it's a sole responder, 2 responders, or a quad, meaning 4 of us coming in. All right, we are not going to wait. When we get that call, there's an active aggressor, we're immediately going to come into that building and we are going to go directly to that threat and neutralize that threat as quickly as possible. All right, so that's the biggest thing that we've learned. Now, obviously in law enforcement, we're continuously evolving, and we're learning, and we're training, and we're seeing more incidents, and we're learning from those incidents. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate we have to learn from an incident, but we're trying to be as proactive as possible. And that's.
How do you know who is the aggressor when you're coming into?
Well, we're gonna get into all that, okay. And that's basically knowledge of descriptions of the person. Is it a male? Is it a female? What are they wearing? How tall are they? Do they have a backpack on? Different things that will give us a description of them. Okay. Preparing for an active aggressor incident. Expectations of law enforcement and building administrators. What can I, the employee, expect of law enforcement during an incident? Identifiable law enforcement markings. You guys will know who we are when we come to that building, okay? Whether we're in our SRT green fatigues, we're the SWAT team, you guys are in downtown Columbus. So you guys are going to have everybody and everybody in their family is going to respond to this location if there is an active shooter. And that doesn't always necessarily mean the jurisdiction the jurisdicting agency. It could be Franklin County. It could be, if I'm driving down the street and we get that call, we're going to come and we're going to respond because that's how we're trained. And the training that I've done with police officers for the past 4 years, it doesn't matter where we're at. Okay, we have a duty to act. Okay, and there always comes a point in time in life, whether it was my past when I was in the military or now, okay, where you have to put yourself in harm's way. All right, and that's what you do with one of these situations. So you will know who law enforcement is when they're coming in, because they're going to be yelling law enforcement, police. They're going to have identifiable patches. They're going to have gun belts on. They're probably going to have rifles. Okay, they know what they're doing. They're going to come into the building, so you're not going to be any question like, who's this guy right here? You know, are these terrorists? So you're going to know who we are. All right. Obviously, law enforcement during this situation will mitigate the incident, and like I told you earlier, our main objective is to get to and neutralize that threat as quickly as possible. All right, and we're going to get into a little bit of first responders and medics and so forth. We're not going to be stopping for people that are injured, okay, and things of that nature. And I'll get into that in a little bit when I move forward with the slides. Security of inner/outer perimeters and holding areas. Obviously, law enforcement, when we arrive in the scene, we're going to be taking care of that, and also building security. All right, I noticed you have that downstairs here, or a desk person. Do you actually have security in the building itself?
Just that person.
Just that one person, so there's not like a rover, somebody that goes to the floors or does a check every hour or 2 hours?
I believe for this building, that happens in the evening. They usually have one person during the day, and then they'll have someone that checks all the floors after hours.
Great. And one of the things that we had talked about when I first got here, one of the best things you guys have is that you can't really access, you know, unless you present an ID downstairs, you can't get to the floors. And even when you get up to the floors, you have to hit a buzzer to get into this area, okay? So that's kind of a nice feature, and that's been the majority of the buildings that I've taught, the DAS buildings, is that there's several levels of security to get to the personnel itself, all right? Evacuation of innocents. Obviously, that's going to be in conjunction with the fire department, you know, building security and police. We're going to get people out of the building as quickly as possible. I know that this falls back on the fire plan that you guys have, if this goes into effect, and I'm sure you have seen that. Have you guys all done the online active aggressor training? You have not?
No, I think there were folks in our office that were appointed. HR had a representative, and they sent representatives probably from every floor.
All the floor wardens.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That work for the auditor.
Perfect.
Auditor's office. I think we have about four or five floors.
Okay.
In this building, and we're working in conjunction with the building management.
Okay.
So we're going to we've
Excellent.
shared their plan with ours, and
Perfect. You know, and that's the biggest thing. As long as there's a plan. You know, every building. You know, I'm going to tell you right now, when I go into all these different buildings, and some of them are really confusing to get in and out of, and everybody has a little bit of a different agenda on evacuating and everything else, and that's fine. But have something, okay? Because when you don't foreplan for these things and you have nothing, and this event occurs, it's chaos. Nobody knows what to do, all right? And once again, like I stated earlier, if I can stimulate your mind a little bit to thinking of these things, and that's the key to success, all right, is communication, having knowledge of what may occur, and what do we do when it occurs, all right? That is going to save lives. First aid to injured. Obviously, EMS, the medics show up on scene, they're going to be tending to the injured or the people that are dying or whatever it might be. The greatest thing that we've done as law enforcement is we have, in conjunction with a lot of fire departments, we now train with those guys going into these active aggressor situations, and they actually come in with us, obviously behind us, okay, so they can tend to those injured. Because the normal protocol when we come into a building is we're going to clear an area. We try not to miss a room or a door or anything because we don't want somebody behind us, all right? So as we clear that area and those medics come in, they're going to be following in right behind us, and they're going to be tending to those injured. As law enforcement, we're not doing that. What happens if I stop for 2 or 3 injured people in that hallway? More people can get killed because we're not neutralizing that threat, all right? Crowd traffic and media control. Obviously, that's going to be handled through the building administrators, HR, the police, the fire department. There's going to be designated areas for the media, so they're not going to be bombarding people as they're coming in and out of the building, or basically, I should say, coming out of the building. All right, the only person coming into the building is going to be medics and police officers. We'll secure that building off. All right. Secure routes for EMS, what I just kind of briefly spoke about. We're going to be securing those routes so that we can get those EMS personnel into the building as fast as possible. Care and custody of suspects. Care and custody of suspects obviously is going to be dealt with from law enforcement. All right. Secondary search. Guys, there's one thing I want you to remember, and a lot of people, kind of that little light bulb goes off. This is a crime scene. So we're going to search this building probably not once, not twice, but 3 times. Okay, because you don't know truly how many active shooters there were. You may get a report of 1, and there may be 2. We've seen it now, right? Where you have 2 people in conjunction with each other, and they're both doing it at the same time. We saw it in San Bernardino, a year and a half ago at the Christmas party, a husband and a wife team that went in there at Christmas. Who would have thought at a Christmas party that you were going to lose, I believe it was 11 or 12 lives, okay? So we're going to do secondary and third searches of the building to make sure that it is deemed safe, okay? And with that being said, remember, it's a crime scene. So whatever belongings you leave in here, whether it's keys, cell phone, you're not getting them for a while, and it could be up to a week because everything has to be processed. And if we allow people to come back in, then they contaminate that crime scene, all right? And these are little things you want to think about, obviously, now, before this situation occurs, is, okay, the floor wardens, what do we do in a case of this? Does everybody keep their car keys on them? At the end of the day, all those things do not matter. Your cell phone, your keys, your purse, your money, your credit, none of that matters. What matters is that you get out of that building alive and you get home to your families and your loved ones. And you do whatever you can to get out of there. All right? So even if you have somebody says, oh my God, I got to go back, no, you grab their butt and you get the heck out of Dodge. If you can do that. All right? We've seen it too many times where people come out or they come back in and then they lose a life. Okay? Preserve that crime scene. That's obviously what we're doing in this situation, is preserving the crime scene. Okay? What is expected of building administrators during an active, I didn't put this together, but during active an incident. Be identified, expect a pat down. Understand this. Do you guys all have IDs on you working in this building? That says you're an
IDs, and some of us have little key fobs. So, like me, I might have my ID with a picture.
That is extremely important to have that ID with a picture. That key fob doesn't tell me anything. I'm going to tell you right now, in a chaotic situation where you're coming out of the building, I have no idea who she is. She may not have her purse on her. She may not have an ID. She may not have anything. Think about that with IDs. Now, I know that's kind of a bigger thing to get done, but have something. And that, I guess, making an ID nowadays is pretty easy. In fact, of working at a facility, have something like that so we know who you are. Because you're going to get patted down. You're going to get, we're going to talk to you because we don't know who you are. Yeah. Fortunately, there'll be a lot of people to vouch. But having those IDs is extremely, extremely important. Immediately provide suspect information. We want that suspect information so we have knowledge. Knowledge is power. We want to know, was there one or were there 2 of them? Give us as much information as you possibly can on the suspect. All right? And do that as soon as possible to follow on for the officers coming into the building. Explain lockdown procedures, help with evacuation plans. Do you guys have evacuation plans here in the building? Do you ever do an evacuation?
Yes.
Okay, how often do you do those?
It's usually once a year.
Once or twice a year.
Okay, good. So basically you are doing some sort of evacuation plan. Okay, that plan, that's a plan you want to use, okay, if this event occurs, all right? Get out of that building. Rosters. Obviously, is there a roster of the employees that work each day? Like you guys know who's here and who's off and everything else? Because think about that. If you have to go outside and you're thinking to yourself, man, was so-and-so here today? Are they still in the building? Are they still on that floor? You want to know where everybody is so you can tell law enforcement. They can radio up to those officers. You know, I've got 2 employees that are missing right now. They could be locked down in a safe room. They could be dead. There's a lot of things that could have occurred. So we want to have that roster and know who came to work, who's on sick leave, who's on vacation, and so forth. All right? Keys if possible. You know, this is a beautiful thing for law enforcement if we had keys to get in every door, but I will guarantee you this. 95% of the time we're not going to have keys and there's so much chaos, we're going to get through those doors in order to get up and neutralize that threat and save lives. All right? Blueprints, video footage, and so forth. I'm currently at the District 5 or the Marysville Post, and we have the Honda plant out there, if you guys are familiar with Marysville. It's a huge facility. So at the Post, we have blueprints of the facility because we're the closest responding agency, and they have over 5,000 employees. You know, we've gone through that building several times and did these active aggressor events where we went in and went through, searched the building and so forth, and we could do it a dozen times, and there's still areas we're not familiar with. But at least we have those blueprints. You know, in a perfect world, we're going to have blueprints, but just think of that. If there's something, a package you guys could put together now and say, hey, if this event occurs, let me make a small blueprint of our floor plan. So if it happens and you're outside, you could give it to one of the officers and says, hey, this is what we're looking at right now. This is where this is the last point that I saw that active shooter. All right, and they can radio up to those officers going up to the floors. All right. And we talked about escape plans. All right, now the building administrators are going to be the liaison to the first responders, family, and media. All right, keep that in mind. Expectations of building administrators during an incident. When calling for law enforcement or 911 operator, what information is needed? Last known location of the active shooter or shooters, okay? Obviously, for obvious reasons, that's extremely important to us. So we know exactly where they were, all right? Number of shooters, if you can tell us, all right? We're always going to anticipate more than what you tell us, but it's nice to have that number, all right? Physical description, anything you can tell us about that shooter, what they were wearing. Were they wearing a ball cap, sunglasses, baggy clothes? Because, you know, when I'm coming into a building, I don't know who you guys are, you know, and I'm assuming that the couple in San Bernardino, they were probably dressed, you know, a little bit different than the other people at the Christmas party, but we want to know who we're dealing with, all right? Number and type of weapons held by the shooters, shooter or shooters, long gun, pistol, and or knife. Those are really, really important to us, especially if they've got a long gun. Okay, most of my guys now, I started this about a year ago, are equipped with tac vests. So we have hard body armor. The vest that I'm wearing now is not going to stop a long gun. Okay, so the point I'm making is if we know that they have a long gun or a rifle, we're going to throw our tac vests on. About 99% of the time, we're going to throw them on anyway. All right, they're nice and heavy and hot, but it doesn't matter. All right, because it's going to save our lives. But if we know what they have, you know, if you can tell us anything, you know, and a lot of people are, well, what's a long gun? What's a rifle? Give us the best description you possibly can of what they were carrying. And do they have a backpack? You know, there's been a lot of secondary devices placed in these active shooters where they placed them in doorways and halls because they want to kill as many people as possible. All right? Whether they can't get them with a gun, they might set a backpack with a timer in there, and when the police come up, they blow the whole hallway up. All right? Number of potential victims at the location. Obviously, give us anything you can on people that have been killed, people that are bleeding, people that are injured, whatever it is, so we can get it to those medics so when they come into the building.
Now,
yes, ma'am.
do they do anything to shut down like Wi-Fi so people can't make phone calls or anything?
No, like that was asked at a previous session that I did, not that I'm aware of. And you know, at that particular point in time, that's not the priority.
Okay.
It's saving lives. Getting the Wi-Fi shut, there's just too many moving parts to get done. There's so much chaotic, you know, stuff happening that nobody's even thinking of that. They just want to get in that building, eliminate that threat, and get as many people out of there as possible.
So they wouldn't, if the bomber or shooter had a backpack, they wouldn't be able, that wouldn't be stopped.
No.
That wouldn't stop.
No,
their
what we would do,
communication.
what we would do in that situation is obviously go in, try to neutralize the threat. If there was a backpack, we're removing everybody from the building anyway, and we're going to send the bomb squad in. We're going to send the FD, fire department in. We're going to have it taken care of that route. Responsibilities, law enforcement, building administrators, and employees. Okay, law enforcement responsibilities prior to an incident, train officers. That's what I've done, is we teach it. It's called direct to threat, meaning we go directly to that threat, and that's what our training is, all right? Individual and team shooting skills, we do that, especially being our firearms instructor. We shoot quite often, quite frequently to stay up on our skills. It's a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Direct to threat training. Sole responder, and I kind of briefly touched on this a little bit earlier when we first started talking. If I'm driving down the alley here, looking for another place or looking to get a donut and a coffee, it's supposed to be funny with the donut thing, but and there's a report or something comes out over Learn that there's an active shooter in the Key Bank building, I'm going in. I don't have time. I don't have that 5 minute, that luxury of having 5 or 10 minutes to wait on CPD to get here. I've got to go in as a sole responder, okay? Because me going into that building and getting through that door, could possibly save lives, all right? And that's how we train, okay? Obviously, we spoke a little bit about this, the layout of the facility, offices, shopping centers, etc. That's great for us to know those things, to maybe have like a packet put together when law enforcement arrives so we kind of know where we're going and so forth. And I spoke about this. We train with the fire, EMS, EMA, and building administrators, usually in our local area. All right, early intervention by ID of potential problem employees. This is an extremely important topic because a lot of times people don't want to say something. If they see somebody that's not acting right, or they walk in and they see, Joe Smith that's sitting over here and he's talking about, when I'm so sick of this person, man, I swear I'm going to come in and shoot him one day. That should be alarming. And you guys hear that and I can see it in your eyes and you're like, man, well, that's crazy. I would absolutely. You'd be surprised how many people wouldn't say anything because they don't want to be that guy. Okay, those are things, a lot of times people will make little remarks and then they follow through with them. And wouldn't that be horrible if you had heard this comment 2 months earlier and then they came in and then they shot and killed 3 people. And I'm trying to think of the incident here at the UPS postal facility here, a couple weeks ago, where a guy came in and killed 4, it was at the warehouse facility, came in and killed, he was just recently terminated, but killed 4 people, all right? I mean, these things, they're happening. It's the reality of the world we live in, all right? Whether you like it or you don't, and it's a hard subject to talk about, but if you see a potential problem, report that problem to HR, okay? And obviously if it's serious enough and you come into work and you see a gun in somebody's bag or whatever, you need to call the police and get them there immediately, all right? Random checks of agency property, i.e. storage rooms, okay? Know your facility, okay? Know if something is out of place, if it doesn't look right, whether we were talking about the bag, okay? So just have knowledge of where you work. Comment box. Anybody tell me why a comment box is up here?
I think
Come on.
sometimes people would put something anonymous in
Bingo.
the box.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Right there. Absolutely. If they don't want to be that person that says, "Hey, Mary Smith was, she was the one who reported that." Put it in a comment box. Now, is that going to be the fastest route to stop a potential threat? No, it's probably not. But at least it's getting it out there. Okay. And be descriptive. So a comment box is an important thing, and they're always made fun of because people put comments on things they dislike about work and they never get changed and everything else. But that is a great way to possibly alleviate a problem in the future. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this building that we are in, we only have 5 floors. Mm-hmm. So how difficult is it for you guys, because the other people we have nothing to do with? Law offices, there are SECs in here, so we can control our 5 floors, but would there need to be someone in the building, which I would assume would be people from downstairs? But do they have rosters for everyone and know the layout of the building and all that? So how difficult is that
Well,
for you?
I'm going to tell you, for us, when we come into the building, let me answer that question. It would be extremely difficult for us because you're going to tell us a particular floor. How do we know that there's not active shooters on another floor? Okay? It is imperative that these buildings, with security downstairs, they should have rosters. They should know who's in the building. Okay, now when I came in, they had a sign-in sheet. Okay? But as I was standing there, 2 or 3 people walked in behind me and, hey, how you doing, Mike? And then went up in the elevator. So that kind of, it's falling on the individual agency itself to know who's there that day. But for law enforcement, it's kind of a nightmare for us. I mean, we're going in, it's already a chaotic situation, our heart's coming out of our shirt, all right? We want to get in and we just want to know, we want to get to that threat as quickly as possible. Is there a chance that there's an active shooter on another floor? Absolutely. So to have that roster downstairs and to know who's entered that building, you know, that would be a great thing. But is it the reality of these buildings? No, it's not. Okay, because you guys simply lease these floors from whoever owns this building, and they're in charge of that. You know, we can't, unfortunately, we can't force this on everybody. It's great, and I wish everybody would have this training, these Fortune 500 companies and all this, and these other places, because it's imperable to have. But, you know, every building's a little bit different, and I would venture to say they probably don't. You know, everything becomes a little laxed over time. You start to recognize people and this and that. And I mean, people sneak into buildings. But the best thing you guys have going for you is, like I said, these doors that are secured up here in the hallway. You're not just somebody hits the buzzer, and I hope there's somebody that's not behind a desk, and when somebody hits the buzzer, they go, oh, because that's a big no-no.
No, they don't do that.
Know who they are. And along with that, know your people. Know if there's a situation going on at home, because let me tell you, there's been many a times where it's been a husband and a wife where they're going through a divorce, and he's like, you know what? It happened a couple months ago in a school teacher. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She's teaching a class. Her ex-husband comes in, goes to the front desk, and says, "Hey, I'm here to see." I don't remember her name. Goes back, she kills her and kills a 5-year-old student because they were familiar with him, but they didn't know that there was any situation going on at home. All right. So just kind of know your people and know what's going on if there's a potential problem. And that was the same situation when I went to Dayton to teach that one. All right. Okay, obviously you guys maintain evacuation plans, employee rosters, visible room numbers. Why is visible room numbers so important to us as law enforcement?
If somebody comes to you and says they're in room number 7.
Right, absolutely. We know it's room number 7. It's much more difficult when I come into a building and they say, "Man, he's on the 3rd floor." You go down the hall to the left and then to the right, and he's on the 3rd door on the left. Okay, we got a lot going on. But if you can give us a room number and say he's in room 7B or whatever, that was the last known spot of the active shooter. Or we've got 4 people in the safe room. They're in the safe room. It's marked number 12. Okay, so we can get EMS medic, personnel to those people. And I have found that probably out of the last 10 sessions that I've done, maybe 2 or 3 actually have room numbers. And that's not a big thing to take some numbers and put them on doors and so forth. Now, I don't know how that works, but that's kind of on the building itself, though, whoever owns that building. I don't think each individual floor has the power to do that. So that's why it's important to kind of get with the building, whoever owns the building, and says, hey, these are things we'd like to implement, and this is why we want to do this. All right? Blueprints, video of the facility. Obviously, we talked about that, how important that is for law enforcement. All right, still continuing with building administrators' responsibilities prior to an incident. Train employees in first aid, okay? Leaving the building, areas to avoid in evacuation. Obviously, you guys realize that the elevators during a fire are gonna be locked down. You guys aren't gonna be able to take the elevators, okay? And that's a great thing for active aggressor training, because what happens when you're waiting on an elevator? You're in a hallway, right? You're usually in a squared hallway waiting on that elevator. But you're a nice big group, okay? If that active aggressor comes up the stairwell around the corner, you're a big target, all right? We don't want you huddling around in a big group. We want you to get out, okay, if you can. So you want to take those stairwells, do whatever you can. And obviously, as the police are coming in, you want to go out the way we came in, because we've already cleared that area. All right? Talked about lockdown procedures, each building. The elevators are going to be locked down. People are not going to be coming back into the building once this event occurs. With law enforcement, we will lock it down. Provide law enforcement the opportunities of training in your facility. Obviously, that's a beautiful thing. Does it happen very often? No, it doesn't. Okay, now we're able to do that at Honda because, you know, they've anticipated something happening for years there, because there's just there's so many employees. All right, so anytime we can train in a facility, that's great to us, because we get some firsthand knowledge of where everything is. All right. Keys to the police department and fire department. Contact them if you believe an event may occur based on information you receive. Okay, pretty simple stuff. All right, if you think something is going to occur, make sure to contact HR, contact the police, let them know, give them the information that you have so they can come and investigate prior to. Encourage officers to stop in when in the area. You guys ever have police that ever come to the building or anything? Have you ever seen CPD or?
No.
No?
Yeah, the fire department is here.
They go everywhere. They just go everywhere. So, all right. Practice, especially for law enforcement. That's what we do. Kind of keeps us sharp. These are some things I talked about with us. Obviously, training is a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Training is not a game. Tabletop exercises. You'll see in the booklets I gave you guys as well. There's training exercises in there in the very back of the book. Those are great things to go over. All right, especially as you're being a floor warden. And it's great because you guys, it says practice evacuation plans yearly. You guys do it once a year. Okay. All right. Know the three options that you have: run, hide, and fight. All right. This is the meat and potatoes of what I'm talking about here. First and foremost, run. Get out of Dodge. If something goes down and you hear gunshots, you don't stand around. You just get out of there. Okay? And having an evacuation plan and knowing where you would go, all right, and how do I get out of this building? All right, obviously you can't get out a window here because you're 3 stories up or, 4 stories up, but know where you would go if you hear that gunshot. Okay, don't wait around and talk and get on the phone and call 911. We'll get the 911 calls if there's gunshots in the building, because those active shooters, they're going to move from cubbyhole or down the hallway to each room, and they want to kill as many people as possible. All right? So get out of there if you can. Have an escape route and a plan in mind. Do that now prior to an incident occurring. If you can escape, do so. Assist others in escaping, okay? If you have 2 or 3 people standing around, get them out of there, okay? Say, you know what? We're not staying around for this. We're going to get out right now. Leave your belongings behind. I spoke about this earlier. That's not important, okay? If you guys are like me, you have your cell phone attached to your hip anyway, and that's the one thing you don't want to lose, all right? So you'll have it with you when you get out of the building. If you want to call 911 or you want to call and check on somebody, go ahead and do it, but just get out of that building. Prevent others from entering the building, okay? Prevent that person from going back to get an item, okay? Tell them why they shouldn't go back in and get them out and clear that area. Keep your hands visible at all times. The reason I say that is law enforcement, when we're coming in, when I talked about it, I don't know who you are. Your hands are what's going to kill me, all right? We need to see your hands when you're running out of that building, all right? All right, let's say you can't get out of the building. What are you going to do? You're going to go to a safe room. Okay, has somebody been through this building and identified safe rooms or anything of that nature? No. Talked about anything with that? Have you guys heard about the safe rooms? Okay, basically it's a room. What's that?
Not for this building.
Okay.
Safe room would be
Correct. Correct. Okay. So a safe room is going to be any building or any room that you can lock, okay, preferably without a window. Okay, and inside a safe room, if you have tables, this is a perfect safe room. Okay, you could take and lock that door right there. You could take 2 desks, you could barricade that door, and I'm going to tell you right now, and we've done this many times, they can stand there all day long and shoot at that door, and they're not getting through that door. Okay, it's not like the movies. Okay, get into a room that you can secure yourself. A bathroom's a great safe room. All right, if you can secure that door. Now, unfortunately, in a bathroom, there is not a lot of stuff that you can barricade the door with. Things don't move. Okay, but somewhere without windows that you can barricade the door and you can stay there for a while. When you designate safe rooms in your building, buy some water, because you might be in there 4 or 5 hours. You're going to be sweating. You're going to be nervous. A lot of things are going to be going on. Okay, have some bottled water in that room. Store it away in a closet somewhere. Okay, if you can have more than one safe room, do it. If you have 2 or 3 places that you know you couldn't get out of the building, so you want to go to those safe rooms right now, and you want to secure yourself in there until law enforcement arrives. All right. Now, I know that they had partnered up with, or DS had partnered up with Public Safety about having first aid kits for the safe rooms. Did you hear about this?
No.
Okay. Basically, they just provided, they had a tourniquet, some blood clotting agents, okay, and that's basically what they had in them, okay. You can get on Google and Google a simple first aid kit with those, and have that in the building or have that in your safe room is a tremendous asset, because you may have somebody bleeding out in there, okay, if they've been shot, okay, and you can apply that tourniquet. And this is a tourniquet. I carry one on my belt right here. Pretty much all of us do now, in order to tie off that area above the wound so they don't bleed out, and having a blood clot agent in there. So basically, if you have those items in your first aid kit and you have some water, okay, secure yourself in that room until law enforcement arrives. Hide out of the active shooter's view. That's the main thing. If you cannot get to a safe room, stay out of their view. Hide somewhere. Do you guys remember the Virginia Tech incident, where the active shooter went through and I think he shot and killed 13 or 14 students? There was a girl that did one of the survivors who was shot, I believe, 6 times. She actually survived, and she said everybody just kind of lined up behind a desk. They weren't hiding, but they were just lined up, and they had their hands over their head, and they were kneeling down. And he walked by one, and he shot them. Okay? Hide. Get out of that active shooter's view. Stay out of that. Make sure they can't find you. If you have a cell phone and you have it on, turn your volume down. Turn it off. Okay? Be as quiet as you possibly can. Even when you're in the safe room, turn the lights off. Okay? Try to control each other. Control your breathing. All right? An active shooter is naturally going to stay 3 to 5 seconds at a door, and if they can't get in, they're going to move on. And why do they move on? Because they want the easiest targets possible. Okay? We talked about this, getting to a safe room. Block entry to your safe room and or lock the doors. Guys, this is a perfect safe room. You got a locked door. You got desks that you can put in front of that door. I don't care how big and bad you are, you're not getting through that door. And then people say, well, are they going to shoot through the walls? They're not going to blindly shoot into the walls. They're not getting anywhere. Okay, they want targets they can see. All right? Silence your phone. We talked about that. Shut the lights out. Remain calm. I know it's going to be hard to do, but you got to remain calm in these situations. Okay? All right, and the last one, fight. If they get in, let's say hypothetically they get in the safe room or they find you, you have to do something. Okay? The number one reason police officers and people are killed in these situations is because what? They fail to react. They don't do anything. And as a police officer or state trooper, I have that warrior mindset and that mindset that, you know what? If you get my gun or you go down, I go down the ground with you or whatever it is, I'm going to fight. And you're going to have to bring everything you have to kill me and to take me out. You cannot go quietly into the night, guys. Okay? If they come in, I don't care what it is. You take this laptop and you smack them over the freaking head. You take a pen and you shove it in their eyeball. It doesn't matter, because you have to go home to your family at the end of the day, right? And too many people don't, because they don't do anything. They get down on their knees and they pray that this person's going to go away. They don't go away. They kill you. All right? And this is the hardest part to get through to people, because we talked about it back here in the other office a little bit. You come to work each day, you get your coffee, it's a beautiful day, you're thinking of the plans that you have at the end of the day and the nice things that you want to do with your kids and your loved ones. they don't think about this occurring. So if you have that mindset now a little bit, that if an active shooter comes in and the other two have failed, where you can't run, and they find you, you better do something. I don't care what it is. All right? As a last resort, and only when your life is in imminent danger, or somebody else's life is in imminent danger, I'm going to add that to it. Okay? Attempt to incapacitate the active shooter. You know, this is another thing. If there's 4 of you girls in this room right here, and I'm the active shooter, and I get through that door, how many people should be whooping my butt?
4.
You're damn right. 4 of you. It's not the biggest person in the room. It's not the person with the skills or whatever. Everybody has to work together as a team. Okay? As a team, you will be successful. And as an individual, your chances diminish a little bit. And I understand people are scared. Okay? But you have to come together, because you better be thinking, this person, if they get through that door right there, they are going to kill me. I will no longer exist. I will be dead. And you do not want to be a statistic. You come together as a group. If there's 8 people in here, when they're going down the hallways and you hear those gunshots going off, your heart's coming out of your freaking shirt, and you're thinking to yourself, holy crap, here they come. And they come to that door, and if they can get in that door, you may not be in this room, you may be in some other room. You may not even be in a safe room. And they get through that door, you better be thinking, okay, here's what we're doing. If this person comes in this door, I'm going to take this freaking desk, I'm going to take this pen, I'm going to do a pair of scissors, whatever it is, and we're going to take them out. Okay? Somebody may be shot, absolutely. But you know what? It is what it is. They come into that door, you have to do something. And too many people huddle up, and they just stand there, and when they come in and they freeze. It's going to get people killed. Okay? Act with physical aggression and throw items at the active shooter. Absolutely. Like I said, throw things, do anything you can to neutralize them as they come in the room. Use whatever you have as a weapon. All right? And that could be anything. All right? You got a hot cup of coffee in your hand, and they come through that door, you're going to throw it right in their face. And we talked about this. Do not go quietly into the night. You know, this brings to my mind. You guys remember in Orlando, the nightclub that happened almost just a little over a year ago now. Okay, and there had been several reports of, as he was coming in, a lot of people were just kind of laying there in the ground, and one individual, and they weren't doing anything. And it's just unfortunate that so many people lost their lives. It was a bad, bad day. And I can only think to myself, I wish more individuals would have this training and have that mindset that, hey, you know what? I got to do something. You know, I can't get out of here. I'm in an open club. There's probably not a lot of areas to hide. We got to do something. All right? And that's the biggest thing I want you guys to get out of this, is get that mindset. You have to do something if this person confronts you, because that's evil, and they are going to kill you. All right? Additional considerations. What if I have a coworker that has limited mobility? Obviously, know your people. Okay, know if somebody has limited mobility. Know if somebody's a diabetic. Okay? Because that person could be in a safe room for 4 or 5 hours until law enforcement arrives, or that active shooter is still actively shooting. Okay? Know your people. All right? A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's kind of a... No. Knowing somebody's a diabetic that you work with is, as far as I'm concerned, not one of those privileged things like, that's a medical. You need to know who your people are and know if they need insulin. Okay? Keep those things in mind. All right? What if I have a coworker that is blind or deaf? Same principle. Okay? You got to take care of each other. When you're getting out of the building, you get that person out with you. All right? Or if you can't get out of the building and you can get to a safe room, get them in that safe room. You got to make sure to take care of each other. Do I have the means to contact law enforcement if I am in a safe room, cell phone or hard line? Okay, it's perfect to have a hard line in each safe room, which I see one right back there. Okay, but like I said earlier, if you guys are like me, you're going to have your cell phone on you anyway. All right, now, does that kind of go against the whole thought of turning the lights off? Yeah, but you can go to a corner and you can whisper on the phone, because every 911 operations center, you can basically whisper super, super quiet, and they can turn it right up and they can hear everything you're saying. All right? Let them know, hey, I've got 5 people in here. I've got 1 person wounded. They're in the hallway. I'm in room 7B, which is a safe room. We're kind of back here in the corner. We're prepared if this person comes through the door to attack them. Okay, but we want to let you know exactly where we're at. And they're going to radio to law enforcement as we come into the building. They're going to tell us, hey, I've got 4 people that are in room, 7B right now. We need to get to that room. All right? We talked about this. Do I have a first aid kit in the safe room? Okay. Once again, extremely important to have that simple first aid kit in there. When law enforcement arrives, how should you react when law enforcement arrives? Remain calm and follow officers' instructions. Do your best to remain calm. If you remain calm coming in, there's a lot of chaos going on. Okay, we want to be able to hear things, and we don't want to create more of a chaotic situation as we're coming in. All right? Immediately raise your hands and spread your fingers. We talked about this. Okay, so we can see your hands. We know what you have. All right? Avoid making quick movements towards officers attempting to hold on to them for safety. Why is that? Because you slow us down getting to the threat. All right? Leave in the direction officers are coming from. That's because we've already cleared that area. All right? That's safe to go out that particular way that we came in. Avoid screaming and or yelling. Same thing with confusion. That creates a lot of confusion for us, especially if we're trying to talk to each other, because I'm going to tell you, I'm not using my portable to talk to 2 or 3 guys following me in. We're talking back and forth to each other. We're using a lot of hand signals and so forth as well. Immediately after accountability, this includes a head count. We talked about this, knowing who was there that day. Okay? Check for injury, shock, and adrenaline will sometimes mask injuries. And this is very true. Okay, and I learned this firsthand in the military. You can be shot. One of your buddies can be shot, and they don't even know it until you look down and say, hey, man, you're bleeding. Because that adrenaline will mask that. All right? So it's good to look over each other when you get outside. All right? Immediate needs, weather-related issues, restroom, privacy from the media, information to further assist the first responders. All those things should be coordinated prior to where are you going to go. Are you going to be in a covered... Look, at the end of the day, people, when you have an active shooter, I could give 2 craps less about what the weather is outside, right? Because I just want to get outside the building. Okay, that's my main concern. Get outside to where all the first responders are pulling up, where I can be safe and away from that building. And also remember this, you cannot leave the area. I know that you'll want to, because they're going to have to interview people, and they want to know who was there. And if you end up leaving without telling other people, or you jump in your car and you get the heck out of Dodge, what does that do when it comes to a roster? And, well, I don't know, what do we think? You're still in the building, right? Okay, days or weeks after an event. Seek professional help, counseling, or at the very least have it available. Okay, and you guys will have that through your HR and so forth. Okay. 75% of what you learn from an incident is from the debrief, hot wash, after action review. We, the State Patrol, we do what's called debriefs. Okay. If we have a situation, we do a debrief. I was a couple weeks ago, or a little bit longer now, a couple months ago, I was on an active shooter, or a guy that had a long rifle that wanted to kill his family and then kill himself. I was the first one to arrive where my troopers were, and then I arrived on scene. They waited on me. We came up to the house. We were able to get the family out of the house. The guy actually barricaded him in the basement, or I'm sorry, the garage. We got SWAT out there. We got our SRT, and then the local county SWAT came out. It was 4 hours later. He eventually did come out, thank God. But we did what's called a debrief. And what those debriefs are is basically, what could we have done a little bit better? Okay, what did we learn from this? Because each situation, no matter how good we think we are going into it, there's always things that happen that we can learn from. All right? We can learn, you know what, next time we do this, let's do this a little bit different. Okay, and that's where we evolve as law enforcement, okay, doing those debriefs. Debrief in-house, debrief with all responders, review and place procedures. We know that sometimes policies and procedures change, right, according to what's going on in the world and everything else in your particular facility. Some policies can be changed for the better, and some are changed for the worse. All right? Adjust or build upon your policy. Concentrate on the what and not who, and the not who. So what can I do now? What do I need to know now to get started? Identify a floor or section warden. Have you guys already identified the wardens and so forth? Okay, great. Identify the rooms for our employees to hide in, referred to as safe rooms. We've obviously already, well, see, this is not on the same floor though as you guys.
No, we're on 9.
Okay, so when we get done with this, we'll go back up to 9, and why don't I go through and we'll identify some safe rooms for you guys, okay? If an employee runs, you need to identify where to rally up at, helps with accountability. Rehearse practice drills, review our plan at least annually. Okay, and remember this, you have new employees coming in as well. And you gotta make sure those new employees are briefed and they kind of know what's going on with this active aggressor training. The floor wardens obviously should be somebody who knows their work area, someone not afraid to step up and take charge of guiding people where to report to. Someone who is familiar to all other employees. Safe rooms for our employees. Doors should be, we kind of went over all this, I got a little ahead of myself. Doors should be able to be locked and or minimum barricaded. File cabinets, tables. There needs to be a means to communicate. Hardline, cell phone. A first aid kit needs to be pre-staged in that safe room. Okay, use if someone is injured to perform basic first aid until a professional can treat them. Make sure all employees know where to go. At a minimum, conduct a small drill and have everyone go to that safe room. That's a great idea. Once you identify the safe rooms, do it once a year when your evacuation plan. Take that time to go through and know where that safe room is. All right? And make sure everybody moves with a purpose. And do we take care of someone with limited mobilities? The game plan. Your plan of action needs reviewed at a minimum annually. That's what I would do with this plan. Review it at least annually. Okay? Did we get new employees that need to be trained? Did our floor plan change since the last review? Are the safe rooms still the same? Safe rooms can change, okay? Depending, they use rooms for different things, and one might turn into a storage office or whatnot, so keep that in mind. Do the locks still work or items used for barricading still present? Is the first aid kit still stocked or need replaced?